By the end of this video, you're gonna find out why the Chicago Bulls are trying to send Zach LaVine to the Golden State Warriors, but why the Warriors shouldn't trade for him. And with that in mind, I'm gonna show you how much it would cost the Warriors to trade for LaVine. And if you watch until the end, you will find out a much better option for the Warriors right now, a much better player for them to trade for. Let's just start with the rumors involving Zach LaVine and the Warriors. So recently, Chance Arania in the Warriors trade talks mentioned this. Warriors maintain control of all but one of their future first-round picks, plus a younger quartet that we said here before, Porzingis, Tracy Jackson-Davis, Moody, and Jonathan Kuminga, which the Warriors have already showed that they don't want to focus on mainly Porzingis and Jonathan Kuminga, right? So providing flexibility. They have shown no appetite to enter the Zach LaVine or Brandon Ingram market. And that's what being said, and I like that they are going towards that direction. But we're gonna comment here if they decide to do it. There are so many fans out there that are in favor of the Warriors going more drastically for this offseason and pulling still a massive trade that would be a second score. So here's why the Golden State Warriors would change their mind and actually pull this trade and bring LaVine to the Warriors, right? So let's look about his stats first of all. He's a 6'5", 200 pounds, very athletic guy. We know that. Has won the All-Star, the dunk competition. He's very athletic, attacks the ring. You see he's averaging almost 20 points per season in his career, 5 rebounds, almost 4 assists. So definitely that second level guy that we believe we don't have, right? Because we don't know where Wiggins and Kuminga will be. So he could be that second All-Star. He has been All-Star twice in his career. He could be that second level scorer to pair with Stephen Curry on the backcourt and support the Warriors, right? So looking at his stats, right? Let's look over his career. You can see he started in Minnesota. If you don't remember, he's part of that Minnesota team that had Andrew Wiggins, Zach LaVine, and Karl Anthony Towns. So he played there for 3 years when he was traded to Chicago. And then I think we saw his career giving a good spike, right? When you look here, from the 2017 season, first season in Chicago, until right now, he had that spike in 2021, 2022, the 2 years that he was an All-Star, almost 30 points, 28 points per season. That was pretty good. And then he has been in a downward since then. So the last season was the worst one, where he averaged lower than 19 points per game. But he has solid numbers, right? So when you look, that is at above average. Like that's a second score type of average for points. And then when you look for rebounds, he helps on that as well. Over 5 rebounds per game last season. And then assists, 3.9, 4, almost 5 at some points. I think it also depends a lot on who he's playing with, right? The Chicago Bulls haven't been a contender in the past seasons. They haven't been the strongest team. So it also influences his numbers as well. But I think he has solid numbers, and combined with the type of plays that he does, he will help the Warriors, right? So if you look at this and you think like he's 29 years old right now, so I still believe he has gas in the tank. And more important, I think if he joins the Warriors, he could face that as an opportunity to finally prove himself, right? He has been this slightly above average player that everyone sees as really good, but he hasn't been capable of winning or driving the team. So he could pair with Stephen Curry and really prove everyone else that he can win. Sort of what happens with Wiggins as well when he joined the Warriors, right? He had that spike in 2022, went for a championship, and that changed like the whole history of his career. Could happen the same with Zach LaVine. So let's look at some of his highlights and let's comment his style of play and how he would fit as the second scorer, right? Just before we go there, something that is very important for the Warriors, his 3 points percentage. He's a 34, almost 35% shooting from 3, which I think is good. It's probably not going to be the main thing for the Warriors to take advantage from him, but he can also help on that. And so he would be a good pair with Stephen Curry. Let's look at his highlights, and I'll comment a few of them. So as you can see here, playing for the Chicago Bulls, and then attacking the ring. So he's definitely a mid-range shooter. He can help on that, going towards the defenders. Funny thing is that by the stats, he's supposed to be lower than Klay Thompson, but I at least have the feeling that he seems to be bigger, actually. So you see shooting from far away, from deep. He is usually like a very athletic attacking again, and then creating the space. I think that's really interesting. So I see some similarity as well at the way that Kuminga would play, and I think he could also be like the kind of like, well, not leadership, but guidance for Kuminga and sort of the style. I like when you bring guys as well that can support that. You can see another shooting from three, so it definitely helps on that. Again, like you can see that in the Chicago Bulls, you're sort of leading that front. A lot of threes here on the highlights. Let me change for another one. So you can see here, let's put one that he's attacking the ring. As I was saying, see, very athletic, going for the dunk and changing for a layup. I like that as well. So I think the Warriors need that, right? Because the Stephen Curry does that, but obviously it's not his strongest suit. So bringing this athletic guy could also really help. Again, attacking the ring. So I like that. And I think in that sense, he is a good, like, he would definitely add for the Warriors, right? But here's the problem. He's such a good player, but there is a catch. His contract. Zach LaVine right now is considered to have one of the worst contracts in the NBA, and I agree with that. So let's look at his contract right now, right? He has 3 more years, 2024, 25, and then until 2027. And when you look at these numbers, they're crazy. And considering where the Warriors are right now, it's even more crazy, right? So he's going to be paid $43 million for the next season, and that keeps going up, 45 and 48. So it's going to be very hard for the Warriors, and actually any team, considering the new rules, the salary caps rules in the NBA, to fit him. And that's the Chicago Bulls are trying to offload him somewhere, and they are having a lot of hard time with this because the Warriors are going to have to absorb this massive contract, and that's going to cost a lot. And there's more on that. So the other big problem is Zach LaVine, and I'm going to bring his stats here again for you to see, is the number of games and his availability over the last years. So look at this. So when you look at last season was the worst one, right? He was available only 25 games. There's one asterisk there is that the fact that he wasn't in good terms with the Chicago Bulls, and apparently he hasn't been for a while. So I don't know how much of that influenced it as well. But then you look before that, 77, that was okay. 67, 58, 60, 63, 24. So he's very, what people say, very injured prone. And that's complicated, right? We actually don't know. Even if you pull off for the trade, you're going to bring this massive contract. You're going to have to let it go other players so you can fit that in the salary cap. And then you don't know if this guy is going to be available. So, and that's a complicated, very good guy when he is on the court, but is he going to be there when we need? And that's the other point, right? We haven't seen Zach LaVine proving to be that guy when you get to a playoff that he's going to help carrying the team, that he's going to pair really with Stephen Curry and be that second guy when you are in that tough moment, when you are in that run that is like against tough teams. So it's a question mark that it puts a big risk on this trade, right? And there's one more. We know Stephen Curry it's an average defender, in my opinion. He is good, but he's not amazing, and that's fine. And Zach LaVine, it's also not amazing. I think when you look to Klay Thompson that left and was our second guy, he was good in the perimeter, or at least a big part of his career, right? And Zach LaVine, he's, I would say, a little bit under average off the ball mainly, right? So if you pair with Stephen Curry, you could weak that part of our defensive system, which is complicated, right? So that's a catch. Like, it's a really tough contract to fit with the Warriors right now. If the Warriors decide that it's worth doing this trade, what would cost them? How would we bring Zach LaVine? Remember, the Warriors have no appetite right now to actually pay the extra taxes. They want to be under that new rules of the NBA. They don't have cap space right now. So if we bring Zach LaVine, that is a $43 million contract for next year, we need to basically send $43 million in players to them. So let's look at our salary cap and discuss the options, right? We know that the names that we have been discussing in trades are Andrew Wiggins, Moses Moody, Kevin Looney, GP2. So let's look at those names. So to be able to reach the 43, we know we're going to need a big number, and our biggest salary tradable right now, let's call that way, it's Andrew Wiggins, right? So we dropped from 43, 26 last, and that still leaves us with some space to deal with. Let's include Kevin Looney, another $8 million. So we put 26 plus 8, 34. We still have $9 million that we need to send towards that. And that's exactly what we have with Gary Payton. So we would basically, in my opinion, to match that, to bring Zach LaVine, it would cost us Kevin Looney, Moses Moody, and GP2. And I see that as very complicated, right? When you look at this, it's going to cost us 3 players. It's going to cost us one of our bigs, like Kevin Looney. We already don't have many. We have Tracy Jackson that's still developing. We don't know how much of a leap he's going to take this season. We haven't signed yet Quinton Post. So it would put us in a really even smaller position, that small ball that has been so complicated. We would lose one really good defender coming off the bench, that is GP2, and we also would leave Moses Moody, one of our young players that has been evolving, still finding his space, but we would have to let him walk towards Chicago, and maybe that would be good for him. I don't know, but it's complicated, and that's why I think this would pull off some, maybe being more a contender right now, but it would cost a lot the Warriors to actually make it happen. So here's why I don't think the Warriors should pull off this trade. I know LaVine is a great player, but as I show you, he's a big risk. So in my opinion, if we're going to take a risk in a player that we know that it's capable of delivering, but we don't know if it's really going to be available, I would go with what we have in the house right now, Andrew Wiggins. And let me show you a comparison table between the two of them, so you can see that actually that they were very similar. So if we're going to take the risk in one or the other, I would not lose the other players, right? Because it's not going to add us space to add more to our roster. We would get down in two players in the roster as well. I would pull off, it would require more minutes from other players, and they have very similar numbers. So look at this. When you look at they started at the same, they were drafted the same draft in 2014. They have very similar averages in their career. Zach LaVine is a little bit bigger in points, but it's not that big disparity. And then you have total rebounds. Wiggins is actually better. Wiggins, it's taller actually than Zach LaVine. You have an assist. LaVine is a little bit bigger as well, but I think he had more a main role in the Chicago Bulls, and that pushed actually that number. Wiggins, we know he's the second guy in Golden State. When you look to field goals, 3 points, I know you could see here LaVine it's slightly better on everything, but it's slightly, and I don't think it's a number that is gonna push a lot to the risk that he of him not being available in that salary that is almost double what we're paying Wiggins right now, right? Well, not almost double, but yeah, very close to that. So I don't think it's worth. And considering that they are very similar players, very similar style, both are athletic, I would take the risk, which I know is a risk, but I would take that with Wiggins. Let me know in the comments what you think about Zach LaVine joining the Warriors. If you think it's a good option or not, if you agree with me that the Warriors should not pull off this trade. And if you want to know what is a better player right now for the Warriors, just watch this video here.